afterwards. You know, so this is really the Israelis being very reckless in matters where it is the U.S. that is primarily vulnerable. And, you know, it's strange to me that people in the Pentagon, and there still are a few neocons dug deep into the Pentagon, though I think the Secretary of Defense, Bob Gates, is much more sensible and realistic than, you know, people like Rumsfeld, Doug Feith, Wolfowitz when they were there. But there still are a few neocons dug deep into the Pentagon. There are some neocons, lots of neocons, still lined up in Vice President Cheney's office. So are these people, you know, actually conniving with Israel in doing something that is risky, extremely grave regarding our interests as the U.S. citizenry? So, you know, I've been blogging about that a bit.
Let me ask you about a comment made by Bill Kristol, the Weekly Standard editor and op-ed columnist for the New York Times. On Fox News Sunday, he said President Bush is more likely to attack Iran if he believes Senator Barack Obama is going to be elected. He said if the president thought John McCain was going to be the next president, he would think it more appropriate to let the next president make that decision than do it on his way out, said Kristol. Your response, Helen Cobb.
Well, I don't know, you know, whether Bill Kristol is channeling the president, whether he's accurately representing the way the president thinks. He may be accurately representing the way Vice President Cheney thinks. You know, Cheney is a very powerful and nefarious figure in the administration, evidently. But, you know, I think we all need to take about 3 steps back and just look at this based on the facts. What do we know about Iran's nuclear program? We do not know that they have a nuclear weapons program. You know, we had the NIE back last November that told us they had actually suspended important aspects of the nuclear weapons program back in 2003. And nobody has said that they've reconstituted those aspects of the weapons program since then. So the basis for any kind of attack, either by the U.S. or by Israel or by anybody, just doesn't exist under international law, just as it didn't exist back in 2003 against Iraq.
I want to turn to another issue, the truce between Israel and Hamas. This is the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert just describing the truce or calm that was announced last week.
It
should be clear. We did not and will not conduct negotiations with any terror organizations. We have no illusions. What they are calling a calm is fragile and likely to be short-lived. I want to make clear that the Hamas is the address in Gaza, and it is the one responsible for any violations of the calm. Should the shooting and the terror attacks continue, Israel will be forced to act in order to remove the threat off its citizens.
And this is a reaction from the Hamas spokesperson, Sami Abu Zuhri.
We call upon the international community to quit the policy of isolation with Hamas and adopt the policy of dialogue. Adopting the policy of calm by the occupation meant that isolation and boycott had failed.
Helena Caban, what is happening in this truce?
Well, it's fascinating. I've been following this issue for a long time, and back in January I actually was in Damascus and I interviewed Khalid Mish'al, who's the head of Hamas. Now, you know, the Bush administration has been working for a long time to either crush or completely isolate and marginalize both Hamas and Hezbollah. But Hamas and Hezbollah, you know, they are Islamist political movements that have real roots in their society, that have proven themselves in elections, free elections in their societies. They're very different from Al-Qaeda, and I think we as Americans need to understand that, and need to understand that you cannot crush these organizations. So actually the Israelis, an important section of the Israeli political elite, including Prime Minister Olmert, recognized that there is no military action that they can take in Gaza that can crush Hamas, that the only way to get Hamas to stop rocketing Israel is to engage in a ceasefire, a reciprocal ceasefire with Hamas. So Israel is not going to be launching its big military operations into Gaza that have killed so many people over the past years. Israel is not going to be launching those assassination, those extrajudicial execution operations against Hamas leaders that they've been doing. 180 of them, I believe, in the last few years, including, historic leaders of Hamas. So they're not going to be attacking Hamas, and Hamas is not going to be attacking Israel. I think it's a real breakthrough. It was mediated by Egypt, and that's significant too, because Egypt, of course, is a big U.S. ally. And what we see right now is all these U.S. allies in the region, in the Middle East, completely going off the reservation, if you like, beyond what the Bush White House wants them to do. In fact, the Bush White House is kind of left running along behind, trying to explain, like, how did Israel do this indirect deal with Hamas? Why did Egypt get involved in it? How did Qatar, our ally down in the Gulf, why did they broker this deal that allowed Hezbollah to actually make some significant gains in Lebanon? And, what is Turkey doing, rushing around, making peace between Israel and Syria at a time that Elliot Abrams and Dick Cheney want us to continue isolating and marginalizing and crushing the Syrian regime? So a lot is happening in the region where the regional powers are dealing with each other, mediating, ceasefires and de-escalatory moves with each other that the U.S. is just absent from. And that's interesting and significant because for the last 30 years, the U.S. has sought to monopolize all peacemaking diplomacy in the Middle East. And now the parties themselves are treating Washington as irrelevant.
We have to leave it there. I want to thank you very much. Helena Cobbin of JustWorldNews.org. Latest book, Re-Engage, America and the World After Bush. That does it for our broadcast. Our website, democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkshire, photo producer Armante Angeli Comet, Jeffrey Hagerman, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Honey Massoud, and Robbie Karen. I'll be in Des Moines on Friday night. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.